Welcome, I'm Judy, founder of the Peace Movement and the Penman of Prayons. This body of work that I share with you is about uncovering, discovering, and experiencing the God, Creator God, as real. God's desire is to have us be in relationship with the one who knows it all. This body of work is about sorting through all the pieces of the way that we have learned to understand life and the few and the limited options that mankind has available with all wide spectrum of agendas to get us to agree with and shape lives according to those agendas. This agenda that I carry as the peace movement, as penmen of prayons, which are really prayers. They are poems that uh, help us be drawn into the presence of love, which is met for many very far from what we have thought of God as. So, this is an invitation into that. I hope that you allow yourself to engage with me in this prayer and ask Holy Spirit to start speaking to you about the kind of love that only Creator God has. So the name today that I'll share the prayer is Your Arms Embracing. My heart is bursting with gratitude for your presence within and your ability and capacity to know every heart as I begin to grasp for words to describe the relief in my mind as I learn to submit to your ways. I continually and gratefully I find your peace. It is in that quiet place you remind me you're there and waiting. That place where your love and healing balm replaces baiting, distortion spewed out through many calculated agendas. No, Holy God, you send love messengers to faithfully defend us. As we develop right relationship with you, hearing your heart, and we learn to trust in you, we discover your plan part, the part we're to fill as we heal and unfold your love story. And we discover the joy present as we return to you, your glory. So contrary to what most learn as we strategize to survive, mostly depending on our minds, unaware. In you we thrive as you touch through us with a word of love's truth. Oh, yes, you again amaze us as we witness renewed youth, as we feel love's touch. You all knowing, all powerful, unfamiliar brand of love, far from man's definition, you draw to, you don't shove us into a box defined by man's ways of hiding fear. No, that's not your style. Your tender heart draws us near, using us as vessels to pour out your love to others hungry to also know the one able to not smother the ember of the flame of passion in our heart. No, this ever available, all knowing God wrote each part and unfolds. Here we stand humbled and so grateful you will reveal to each one as we discover love how to seal that knowing that we know it can't be taken away. No, the assurance you provide, fresh and new every day. I'm continually amazed at the fact that I can have a relationship and establish a real relationship of intimacy and trust and love with the God I cannot see. But God teaches us that all things are possible when we believe. And the beautiful thing, it's not empty and hollow, full of belief, but it's a belief that produces a level of peace and understanding, restoration, and a capacity to love beyond anything I've ever known or studied. And I've studied for decades to discover what it is to live a life that can be changed and transformed and by a God that it's faith that opens the door and unlocks every door for us. So, as we step out for many into a new arena of knowing that God's not empty, hollow, flat, and far in distance and mad, but God is hearing and desiring to guide every step that we take. And as God love guides those steps, we become useful vessels to bring healing to a world who so desperately needs it. We have never, in my lifetime at least, known a time where the divisiveness is so great. And at this point, I'm pretty much convinced that there is a very clear agenda behind that to keep us from loving each other and being in one mind and one accord and being able to link arms in with an agenda for good and agenda to uh, know and hear God's will and God's desire. I spent many decades not having a clue that God was real and that God was interactive and that God was responsive. And now, the last decade, especially, that I've discovered that and watched Him do unbelievably amazing things in not only myself, my family, but it's more and more all things that I get to touch. So I just invite you to consider that we know very, very little about intimate relationships, but we know a great deal about how to be part of an agenda that divides. So I just come to today and invite you to join with me, uh, being embraced by the arms of love, the arms of God, the all powerful. And if it's unfamiliar, it doesn't have to stay that way. So I pray that this has been a blessing to you today and ask you to consider that there's so much more that we know than man's understanding, but the understanding that God brings us can bring joy, can bring a peace beyond all understanding, and can bring hope and abundant life back to us. So this is Judy, penman of crayons, founder of the Peace Movement, signing off for today.